On the night of August 27th, 2022, Misfits Boxing debuted in front of a sold-out crowd, where we would see a stacked card of influencers slash crossover fighters take the stage to make a name for themselves in this new era of boxing. 2 of the 8 matches that took place on the card involved the returning KSI going up against first, a former collaborative rapper of his named Swarmz, and for the main event, Mexican professional boxer Luis Pineda. In the first fight of the inaugural Misfits event, KSI would come out to the ring against the debuting Swarmz and take him out within the second round via round 2 knockout.
And there it is. He's looking at his corner.
It's all over. And that's it.
After the fight had taken place, KSI praised Swarmz for taking up the fight with him on a few weeks' notice, and from there, it was just a matter of waiting to see what was next for Swarmz, which we would soon find out to be that it was going to be a fight against Kristen Hamby and Misfits 002. That ended up not happening though, as Swarmz had needed more time to prepare for it, thus cancelling the fight overall. At around that time, he had also teased who else he might have had in mind to fight, from several different creators and fighters like Joe Weller, Alex Wasabi, Austin McBroom, and even Bryce Hall. But the one that he wanted the most was Gideon, where he would make a full video on him calling out the YouTuber, but with that, Gideon would decline the offer for the time being, so Swarmz moved on from it, and then it was announced that he would be on the undercard of the next KSI fight in January on Misfits 4 against Ryan Taylor. In this fight, Swarmz will come out with the win from basically just throwing out one punch in the fight, as he had clocked Ryan in the right spot to the point where the match would be called off and give Swarmz the round 1 TKO victory. After that fight, Swarmz then set his eyes on Deji, and that matchup ended up happening 3 events later at Misfits 7 in the co-main event. In that fight though, for Swarmz, he would come out with a loss against Deji via unanimous decision, but immediately after that fight, when Swarmz was getting interviewed on what had just gone down and what was next for his future, the lights turned off and a familiar face from the first Misfits event showed up in the ring and called him out.
Swarmz! You called my name! I am ready! Bravo!
Swarmz wouldn't immediately respond to Pineda on that night, but he would eventually address the call out in a video of his and said that he would be down to go up against the Mexican fighter.
You can't come out and call me out straight after the fight when I'm f***ed, like when I'm tired, when I have to go to the doctors and check if I'm alright. I did not run. If I saw Pineda, I promise you, I will go and literally strangle that flamingo. Vamos. You know I don't back down from no challenge. If you want it, I'm here, bro.
Swarmz' next fight from there though will come up on the very next event actually, on Misfits 8, this time being in the main event in a first ever 4-man Survivor tag match against Nick Lamau, Ryan Johnston, and B-Dave. Swarmz, even though he had a good showing, would not come out as the winner here, as Nick Lamau would take the W in the end via the judges' decision. It would be a debated topic and conversation as to whether or not Swarmz should have been the winner, but in the end, the results of that fight will show up on Swarmz' history as a loss. Then finally, for the madman here, Swarmz' next fight that was set to take place will be on the prelims of the highly anticipated Prime card on October of 2023. The match would actually be giving Ryan Taylor a second go at Swarmz after having been defeated by the One Punch Man, but unfortunately for Ryan, he ended up going to jail for several days way too close to the fight and wasn't going to be able to make weight for his matchup against Swarmz. So with that, Swarmz was then now set up to take on another fighter in Ed Matthews, and when fight night came around, Ed shocked the world by knocking out Swarmz within the first 30 seconds of their match.
Oh, big shots come forward. Oh, and he's down. He's got to get up. And it's over.
So even though he had lost, it's not too far off to say that Swarmz had won the hearts of the community after initially taking on the challenge to fight KSI on a few weeks notice on the initial Misfits card, and then also due to the way he promotes his fights by trash talking and dropping the occasional diss tracks.
This ain't no Simon diss track. Back down cause your hairline lift by your exes, I won't know back like Ridgeback. Hitman with a left jab couldn't deflect that. Best not forget that, signing a contract, bet he regrets that. Deji, let's get cracking. On the spot, I'ma pop this black in. I might go like Vida Valoka. Jake Paul, why you such a joker? You like fighting old men so much, I can tell that you don't respect your elders. Love-hate relationship with Logan, but I don't go unnoticed. Logan loves KSI better than you, but you already know this. I can't send for JJ no more, cause he gave me a helping hand. JJ, please stop eating burgers, looking like an old version of Lao Ham.
So with that being said for Swarmz, this is the part where I would move on to talk about his Misfits 1 opponent, KSI. But as we all know, JJ went on to fight later that night, so we'll go through that later. For now, let's move on to the second fight of the night, where we saw Happy Punch's own debuting fighter, Deen the Great, take on Evil Hero. Deen the Great versus Evil Hero would end in the very first round after Hero wasn't able to continue, and then therefore give Deen the round 1 TKO victory. After Deen had won and had a funny fail of attempting to do a backflip, Evil Hero will congratulate Deen on the win and then say that he hopes to run it back with him one day.
He was a better boxer. I'm gonna get a rematch in like a year. I'm gonna beat this motherfucker.
Over the following year, talks didn't really end up happening about a rematch, but Evil Hero did get another fight under his belt, under his real name Stuart Kellogg. The fight that he was now having was going to be up against IAmThmpsn, and the bout would actually take place on the prelims of the Jake Paul vs Tommy Fury event in February. The fight between the two only went one round, as when they were taking the break right after it, it was determined that Stuart, aka Evil Hero, couldn't continue and then thus give IAmThmpsn the win. Deen, while watching the fight, commented on it and then said that Adam was awful in it. From there, Evil Hero didn't really get back into doing more fights. Instead, he just kept on doing his usual thing with TikTok and everything. Now, as for what Deen had done after the fight though, the next matchup that he had would take place on Misfits 3 in the main event, where he would come through with taking on the highly requested fighter Waleed Sharks. Their fight would be an incredible one, as Waleed had Deen's number numerous times throughout the match, but in the middle of the third round, Deen would hit Waleed with a massive blow that would send Sharks stumbling and then have him turn his back to the ref, which then gave the referee no other choice but to call it there and give Deen the round 3 TKO victory. This fight would be controversial in that Waleed seemed to have been unaware of the turning your back in a boxing match circumstance, and a campaign would now take place of trying to get Waleed a rematch against Deen. In the meantime, Deen's next matchup from there would take place at Misfits 5 against Puli Arif, but before that would even happen, Waleed and Deen, after a bunch of more trash talking, will go at it at that Misfits 5 press conference.
Save it for the night, guys.
After going through that, Deen wouldn't let that get to him, as he then went on to win his match against Puli with a unanimous decision victory after 4 full rounds. Deen and Waleed's beef though would continue at the following event at Misfits 6, as Deen saw Waleed take a win that night in his own fight, and now from that, the next thing that was on Deen's plate was that he was going to be in a tag team match with teammate Lil Cray Cray, but after some changes had taken place, it was then announced that Deen's partner wasn't going to participate anymore, and that now it was going to be a mystery partner that would be taking the vacant place against 2 other opponents. And who else would it be besides the arch nemesis himself, Waleed Sharks. Waleed will be revealed to be Deen's partner before the fight took place, and the two went on to win their match at the event, defeating Yudi Gang and APAP in the tag team match. To the surprise of almost nobody after the fight, the two's animosity will still get to them each, even in the hands of a tag team victory. So with that happening, what was next for Deen seemed to have been a match against Waleed, but things took a turn when Fuzi started his 24/7 live streams, which we'll get into later on. But during those streams, Fuzi would essentially start beefing with Keemstar and then start bad-mouthing their promotion company, Happy Punch, with Fuzi saying that he was going to start up his own new one called G7 Promotions. With that, Fuzi aimed to have someone like Deen on it, and Deen, in regards to that, would tease the idea of joining G7 by collabing with Fuzi and saying things such as, if it makes money, it makes sense. Keemstar wouldn't like what was being said and then had Happy Punch officially drop Deen. As unfortunate as that was, Deen didn't let it get to him, as he now had something else in mind in the following weeks, when it was announced that he was now going to take on that highly anticipated rematch against Waleed Sharks on the massive platform that was the Prime card. Fight night then came around, and to make it a long story short, the way that this fight went was almost the opposite of their first bout. Deen dominated throughout the match, getting some good hits against Waleed, and in the very last moments of the fight, Waleed had gone all out and was getting his best hits of the match thus far. But at that time, it wasn't enough, as it was eventually announced that Deen had won the fight by unanimous decision. After his win, Deen went on to call out Ryan Garcia and or Tank for his next fight, and Ryan actually responded to Deen with a couple of posts on X, with one of them even saying that he would face not only Deen, but also go at Anthony Taylor and KSI all on the same day. And to all of that, Deen would just go on to say that a fight between him and Ryan would be the biggest and best fight to make in influencer boxing history, and that was that for Deen. And from that former member of Happy Punch, we now move on to the next fight that took place at Misfits 1, which was another Happy Punch fighter in the Candyman Sam Hyde taking on IAmThmpsn. Sam Hyde and IAmThmpsn's bout will go to the third round, where we would see the Candyman take home the round 3 TKO victory. Immediately after the match, Sam went on to viciously call out one of the people that he despises the most on this planet, the Twitch streamer Hassan Piker.
Hassan Piker, I'm coming to you!
Hassan, after being asked about taking a match with the Candyman on his stream, would immediately respond with a resounding no, and then later on get in a fuss with some people during an IRL stream when he got asked about the call out up front.
Are you ever gonna accept Sam Hyde's fight offer?
What? I don't, dude, no. Why are you fucking talking to me about some dumbass fucking weirdo Nazi?
I think Sam Hyde, he called you out on like a boxing event. Are you interested in like the boxing scene or not?
No. why you guys are so into this shit.
So with Hassan not wanting to have anything to do with the Candyman there, Sam just moved on from it, and then it was announced that he would be stepping away from the ring and retiring from boxing overall. With that, what was next for Sam was a new project under his helm called The Fish Tank, which was basically a live reality TV web show where multiple people were locked in a house with plenty of paying viewers watching online, and amongst them were many challenges where the last person standing from all of this would then win a grand prize. The whole thing ran its course with the occasional problems, but it eventually ended with a winner coming out in Josie. So with that getting attention from the internet, Sam would make the talking rounds once again when IAmThmpsn's Creator Clash 2 event rolled around, and for this, to make it a long story short, this whole controversy around the event stirred up where one of the fighters, Froggy Fresh, would be banned from competing due to having been training and making content with IAmThmpsn's most recent nemesis, Sam Hyde. After IAmThmpsn made a video confirming that to be the case, he subsequently requested Sam to stop harassing him, and with that, Sam just moved on from him. Now going back to just Sam on his own, even though he was retired from boxing, Hyde has still stayed in the scene as he would tease training potential fighters like Critical and Leafy during some of their more notorious beefs of the year. Nothing came out of these two situations though, but Sam did later on post an announcement saying that he was going to be fighting Dr. Disrespect in a Muay Thai fight for $1 million. But with that, nothing more came out of that post of an announcement, not even a mention from Dr. Disrespect, so whether or not that was ever true at all at any point of time is up for anyone to imagine. And the final thing for Sam here is that he has now just recently announced that Fish Tank Season 2 is now in the works, but that he needs some help from the viewers to make it happen. And through that, he will be allowing people to get into the midst of it by becoming an investor of the project. And so far with it, he has raised over $1 million from thousands of investors watching from the sides. Now, as for what his defeated opponents from the year prior, IAmThmpsn did, he just went back to doing content with his violin, some innocent, and some not so much. But that was about it for Thompson after his fight with Sam. So from that fight of his with the Candyman on the Misfits 1 event taking place, we then went on to the next matchup of the night, which was when we saw a new star take rise in the crossover boxing scene. Papi versus Andy Warski would end with an impressive round 1 knockout by Papi that would explode his popularity in the community. But first, before we get into him, the defeated opponent Andy Warski congratulated Salt on the win and eventually went on to give him more props in the future as Salt took on more fights.
I just watched Papi fight. He just knocked the fuck out of a 240-pound like Greek god. Why did I go into the ring with him? Come on. Who wants to fight me? Like someone at my level, okay? Someone, an actual influencer and not a fucking like boxing prodigy.
So there, he hinted at wanting another fight in the scene, but that never ended up happening. Although, on the other hand, as many of us know, Papi had numerous significant fights take place after his victory against Warski. After the events of that night on Misfits 1, Papi will go on to become one of the main talking points of the whole scene, and his brand and stock would skyrocket. But in this rise of popularity with his dominant performance at Misfits 1, many feared to take on a Filipino fighter, as his Happy Punch manager, Keemstar, went on to make that point clear, but one man did come through and taking up the challenge against Salt, and that was the MMA fighter slash YouTube vlogger Josh Breckner. To that of Papi, he was also another fighter that many people had feared, but the two would step up for the challenge against each other and go at it on the Misfits 4 event in January. On that night, Saul would end up adding another highlight to his career, as he will go on to knock down Josh in the second round of their bout, and Breckner would not be able to stand after the 8 count, and thus give Papi the round 2 TKO victory. With another huge showcasing win, Papi will be on top of the world and show his star power even more, as his fights on YouTube will become one of the most viewed matches from the Misfits events thus far. And now, with this recent victory against Josh, it made him an even more feared opponent that nobody wanted to take part in. But on the next Misfits pay-per-view event, Misfits 7, one man did step up to the challenge to take on Salt, and that was the self-proclaimed pretty boy and crossover fighter Anthony Taylor. Now with this, it was interesting as the two were fighting under the Happy Punch brand, and even though Keemstar wasn't too fond of the idea, he had to have Salt fight on another Misfits pay-per-view event somehow. With that, a little bit of controversy occurred before the fight was even set to take place, as it was revealed that Salt was only looking to do 3 rounds in the fight, as Keemstar had claimed that it wasn't in their best interest to have Salt do more time for a fight of this sort and magnitude.
Can Papi do 4 rounds? Yes. Can he do 8 rounds? Yes, he absolutely can, right? But if it's a tougher opponent with the same amount of pay, you gotta get something, right? So 3 rounds was one of the things that Salt Papi got.
And evidently in the end, this 3-round decision didn't seem to go in Salt's favor, as when the May 13th fight went up to take place, Salt Papi's win streak would come to an end by unanimous decision. From there, while many thought that the flame in the star of Salt Papi had burned out, Salt would just continue working on himself and get prepared for his next bout. He would get laser eye surgery and cut down weight for his next fight, which many rumors would come around as to who his next opponent would be. At first, negotiations with Slim took place, but that quickly fell through, and then it was rumored that Blueface was going to be taking on Salt, but that one also fell through, as Blueface ended up getting stabbed and wasn't cleared to fight anymore. So now, with Salt Papi being opponentless for the next Misfits pay-per-view event, a familiar face returned to the scene to confront Salt on Misfits 9, that being Slim, and from there, both fighters eagerly signed the contract to have their highly anticipated bout take place on the Prime card. October 14th rolled around, and this dream matchup saw about an even fight between the two for the first 3 rounds, with some saying that Salt was taking the lead, but on the 4th round, Papi took a bunch of good hits from Slim, got knocked down, and then had the ref calling off the fight near the end of that infamous round. So now, with Salt Papi respectfully taking the loss there from Slim, making this his 2nd consecutive loss in a row, one had to wonder what was next for Salt Papi, and to that, he just responded to a post here saying that he will continue fighting until he wins, even if that means that he could possibly lose another 10 times in a row. And that was that for Salt's fighting resume thus far in Misfits. But some other things that took place throughout Salt Papi's whole run there was that he became a co-owner in Happy Punch, and that even had a wild rumor go around saying that him and Manny Pacquiao were set to go up against KSI and Floyd Mayweather in a tag team boxing match. Of course, that never ended up happening, but that was everything that happened with Salt Papi there. Now, this video has already been pretty long, so instead of just going on with the other 4 remaining fights and still going over some of the other things that Misfits had been doing since their first event, I'm just gonna end off this video here and make a part 2 to this for later on. So with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed part 1 of this video, and I will see you in the next one.